You found yourself at Meyerland Radio, where we aim to bring the Love Nikki community together just by talking to each other. We hope that you enjoy today's show and consider joining our community on Discord, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, where else were we at? Who cares? Right after this.
There's Craig. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
I love how every show we still say hi to him. Like,
of course. For those that are like, a bit like, what's that? Craig is the guy who records it for us. I say guy, he's a bot, but we don't like to let him know that.
He's a person to us. All right, so today we have a very special show for you guys. They've actually, chosen something that I think everybody is kind of excited about and wants to talk about and hear about. So, Liz, if you want to just go ahead and start.
Yeah, so what we're sort of going to be talking about this week is a character that, for me personally, I find the most fascinating. It was the first one that I kind of got a bit of a theory about. He started my Love Nikki tinfoiling. It is not Nidhogg, it is none other than the Demon Doctor. So he's just so interesting, and so far on Love Nikki we've not had too much about him. He's obviously, we had the event with the 6th clinic event with sorry, Darcy knows my theory by heart. We've had him in the 6th clinic event, and he sort of popped up in the one with Vix, and it's more like little Easter eggs that you can sort of piece together. But actually, if you go right back, what we're going to try and do is sort of like kind of go back to the beginning with him more, talk a little bit about like what we've seen so far in Love Nikki, then go back to more chronologically where he started, which was in a stamina event in Japan that we've not had yet. I think that covers it.
yeah, that's about it. I mean, I feel like he hasn't really gotten a super proper introduction, because I feel like, to Nikki at least, because the time that they met Grey Raven in chapter 19, it was like a hologram of him, which I know, to me, I'm like, I don't know if that counts, but technically they did meet him, but it wasn't physically him, and he was kind of being a little weird. But again, he's always a little weird.
He is very weird. He's very weird. Also another reason why I fangirl about him. I love his weirdness.
So valid.
Yeah. So, can you hear me? I've got a red. Oh no, it's gone green again. So, yeah, he first sort of, I think he first showed up with us was in the 6th clinic event, really.
Yeah, and that was a time when a lot of people weren't really playing the game, like, and even if they did, I don't know how much people followed the story. So it was a long time ago. I definitely wasn't playing back then. Yeah, it was.
No.
I joined literally like a few weeks after that event ended, and I'm kind of salty.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's such a cool event too. Like, it has a lot of really cool lore to me.
Yeah, it does. It's like, Demon Doctor lore is just very interesting.
I'm just going to actually try and pull up the suits that actually came out in that event.
I already was going to go get them. Yeah, so June 28th, that was 2017. That was so long ago. That was like 2 entire years ago.
Yeah, I wasn't playing it then either. I got it after that. I can't remember if it was something that I paid for gold, if I crafted it. I really can't even remember how I obtained the suits. I just know I fell in love with them.
So what's interesting about this event is that in the dialogue of the story, he actually doesn't appear either. Like, we learn a lot about him from like the suit descriptions and from what people say during the event, but he doesn't like show up and talk to Nikki in the event. Basically, what happens in there is they go to Losol because they're like, oh, we think that Queen L and this mysterious demon doctor, we don't know anything about him, but we think they're like in league, or maybe he's helping her out or something, for the Iron Rose. And they show up and they're like, what on earth is going on here? And they meet Peachy, and Peachy is pretty much like, the doctor's very busy. He can't see you right now. Everyone's always coming to investigate the clinic now. They're not really here for his services. And Nikki was like, darn, we're foiled. But they don't actually get to meet Grey Raven in there. But the suits have a lot of really cool information about his mysterious powers.
Yeah, and it's like things like nobody knows where the dot come from. The grey demon in this world may be an angel for the underworld, and there's loads of stories like that. And it's interesting actually. The skeleton, I think, is actually you can see it there on that pose behind him. That posed skeleton. You find a lot more about I was just seeing it come up in the thing. You find out a lot more about him as well, with slightly variations in translations to the lore from the different servers. He is actually ends up being Vix, the guy from the the guy from that Crime Buster suit, if the Midnight Prisoner. He was basically just a boy, and it the suit goes more into the story of him, like of Vix, who has basically gone to the demon to make a deal, and he basically has to sell his soul pretty much to the demon doctor. The doctor's all like, is it worthless? Use hopeless life to exchange for a shiny moment. Humans are a really interesting race. And I mean, even just like what he says, that the actual specimen number 7 itself, you are my best work. Let me make your heart into a specimen so that your soul will be kept forever. He's a very, you can sort of tell straight away that he's someone that is a very interesting character, but you don't necessarily realise at that point that he was going to be a recurring character, or someone that would end up being important later.
Huh, interesting, yeah.
So yeah, for me it was like the first time I noticed, like with an event, that it was someone who seemed like it was just a one-off event, actually ends up being a big impact on the story overall as it carries on. He does appear again later on in the Crime Buster. He makes a brief appearance in Louis' Dreamweaver. He's actually tough to do. I was saying I should have brushed up on Louis' Dreamweaver before coming on here. I just suddenly remembered, like, literally about an hour ago.
He just keeps popping up.
He just keeps popping up, and obviously the one that most people will be aware of him from as a sort of character of his own right is in the Dawnfront Wars. He's one of the bad boy options, and he wants to experiment on Cloris. So he's more like, what's interesting for me? What can I experiment on? But so he seems like this weird, mysterious, possibly human, possible being, but you don't learn much about him until it comes to the, like, where he came from, I should say, until it comes, like, I had a fear in the War and Wounds, which I will come to later, but it starts off with, and I'll pass this over to Sailing or Bake. It starts off with the Japanese stamina event, which these guys have brushed up on a bit.
Yeah, this event, I'm sure people have seen it. It's not really one that's hit our server yet. Let me post a picture.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
quickly.
I had it up. So basically, this event is one where you can get these suits. It's a stamina event. Like Liz said, I think.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that it's from the Japanese server, and they have like this official Pixiv account, the Japanese developers, and they've posted like these little stories, like sort of like how when you unlock a suit, you get a little story. They've posted stories like that on Pixiv before, not just for this event, but for a few other events that originated on that server. So thankfully, someone was very kind to translate it. So we learned a lot about basically his past. For those of you guys who don't know, basically Grey Raven's real name is Morrison. The story is about, basically it's told from the perspective of Peachy, his little assistant, as she works with him at his 6th clinic. She sort of forgot all of her memories. She didn't really know where she came from, but she works for him, and she gets him to open up through just being nice to him about about his past and about his sister and why he was a doctor. It's like a really sweet story. I don't know if I can tell the whole thing right now, but it was just really sweet. Yeah, she expresses some jealousy about all. Basically, Grey Raven has a lot of fangirls. There's a lot of people who really, really want him to operate on them, if you know what I mean. But she is happy to know some stuff about him. Peachy, I mean, that those fangirls don't know, which I found really cute. But yeah, basically the part about his sister is, let me pull that up real quick. Don't want to get any details wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, while she's just checking on that, it's basically, for me, it was just like, he was just seemed like just a really sweet boy. We do find out he was from Ruin. He went to study in Apple to be a doctor as well. So that's why he actually appears in the time diary under the Ruin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he's just this really sweet boy, very studious boy, very intelligent, and yeah, I'll pass back over again.
Yeah, you're fine. Oh no. I totally understand. You're the big fangirl here. Yeah, so basically in this little novel we find out, and from this event, that he had this sister who was 2 years younger than him, so little sister when he was a student too. And he found out that she had this illness. He was 5, I guess she was 3. So he was really worried about this, but they kept it a secret from his sister. But basically, Morrison was really motivated to cure this illness. They didn't have any cure at the moment to figure out how to fix this, but he was like, I'm going to find out a cure for this. He just totally threw himself into his studies. And they said she wouldn't live to the year 18, so he was really motivated to basically cure her before she reached this age. And he went to medical school, and unfortunately she passed away, which is very sad. But he froze her, apparently, when she turned 18, and he basically really hoped that he could continue to cure her illness. He ran out of time, but he was like, I'm gonna make more time and find a cure for her one day. And what else we find out about in this event is that Peachy, at least she gets this impression that he is basically taking people's souls in order to help him find a cure, like the sacrifice of people sacrificing their souls, because they're trying to get Grey Raven to fulfill all their deepest fantasies. They want power, they want whatever, so they sell their souls to him, and he basically uses those as repayment to try and find a cure for his sister.
Yeah,
it's really sad.
So yeah, you kind of find out there's more to him than just being this two-dimensional weirdo that just wants to experiment on elves because he's not done it before. Yeah, you'll find out there's obviously he's same with anyone else. He's come from somewhere. Yeah. And yeah, and throughout it there's like loads of like little mini hints dropped. Oh, all right, Sailing's found it. Sailing, do you want to talk about, 'cause I meant to mention this earlier on when I was saying about like there's places where we know that the demon doc has shown up. We know he's in a Sixth Clinic event. Well, his suits come out in a Sixth Clinic event so far in Love Nikki. He actually appears physically in the event with Vix and the police officer with all the little corgis. I can't remember what the event's called. But there's like little hints to the Sixth Clinic having this sort of very insidiousness across sort of Myraland, and it seeps into places where you might not necessarily expect to find it.
Yeah, he just little hints dropped everywhere, and one of them is in this suit description. I don't know if you guys remembered the suit called Sweet Superstar. It's this girl who looks like this idol. She's like sort of striking a pose. She's got a microphone, which I know we have a lot of suits with microphones, but she's like all sort of pink and winking and stuff. It's really, yes, thank you. Yeah, it's recharged. I was like, it's so difficult. But there's a little interesting hint thrown into her suit descriptions. It says she dreamed of. I'll just read it. It's about this girl called Reza. Reza dreamed of a letter on the desk. Would you trade brilliance with soul? A secret 6 on the sender place. And so, the clinic that Grey Raven works at is called the Sixth Clinic. So it's like basically saying she had this letter offering for her to trade her soul for brilliance, which I guess is meant to be about her her fame or her talent, perhaps. I'm not totally sure, but from the Sixth Clinic, and obviously she's a superstar, so kind of implies what she did. But yeah, and then it says the letter was taken away by someone unknown. The train headed north, and town is calm as usual. So, north toward from Apple, or from which nation is this? Oh yes, it's Apple. North from Apple, between the border of Apple and North Kingdom, is Losal, which is where the Sixth Clinic is. So that's some geography lore for you guys.
And yeah, so it's just sort of like that hinted at how I actually how I took that and understood it was basically it was the soul for the fame, because the whole suit's talking about how loved she is. Everyone loves her, no matter what she does. She is idolized. She is completely and utterly idolized. But she's obviously paid a very high price for it. And I mean, there's one slightly before the one about the letter on the desk. Another part of it is about on the desk, like when she goes back into her dressing room, sort of thing. It sounds like on the desk is a photo of a shy girl. The place is filled with medicine odor. So she's gone from, and that obviously could be well referring to the Sixth Clinic. So she was just this really shy. She wanted to be famous. She wanted to be idolized. She wanted all this fame. And she paid a heavy price for it. Basically.
So sad.
Yeah. He sort of very much appeals to that sort of your secret desires. Basically, whatever it is that you secretly want, or whatever with Vix, it was that he wanted this design. He wanted to be this star sort of designer. He has ways of making it happen, but people aren't necessarily considering the cost as a whole of it. And yeah, I think that sort of pretty much covered what we actually know of him before I start moving on a little bit about my ideas of the things that aren't necessarily known. Yeah, Tilly's just posted the tinfoil hat.
I'm trying to think, how much do we talk about the whole like aging thing and his thing with Peachy? Like she yeah, I'm not sure if we covered
Peachy.
Yeah.
Because she kind of showed his sort of soft side, so to speak. Like, like what you said, she didn't really remember anything about herself. She was being badly mistreated or arrested just out on the street, and he took her in. And I'm trying to remember if this is actually in the story or if I'm just imagining it. That he sees her as being like she reminds him of his sister.
Oh yeah,
and that's why he took her in.
That's in the story. Yeah,
that is in the story.
She's like, Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, so she's kind of like, she fully crushes on him as well. Like, it's quite obvious that she likes him in a different way, but he's always just gonna see her as this representation of sister, and I suppose what he's lost. For me, she represents that little bit of humanity that's sort of left for him.
Yeah, one of the lines from her suit, which I find pretty funny, is basically when he said, you can trade your soul for whatever you want. And she said, "Oh, anything I want, so I can ask the doctor to be my boyfriend." Yeah, it's pretty obvious that she has a crush on him, which is really cute, but also kind of messed up because Yeah,
and I know another thing that wasn't mentioned, I've just noticed Bakes put up, was the link between Shade and Demon Doctor as well.
Yeah. So Peachy is forever 18, and there's another character who kind of like goes through sort of the same thing Peachy did, and that's Shade, aka that really hot assassin guy everyone chose during Dawnfront.
Jockstraps. Yep. Carry on.
But basically, there's sort of a history of Shade, and he used to, be a normal person. I'm not going to spoil too much about that because I feel like we could dedicate like a whole other show dedicated to his full story. But he's also kind of like Peachy in that he's forever 18 and he doesn't remember anything about his past, and I think that's like another really interesting thing.
Yeah, he's very linked in with what's happened to Shade and why Shade is who he is now.
I love Shade though.
He is. He's amazing. But before I start fangirling, I'm just going to start fangirling over him soon. But yeah, so yeah, I mean that kind of helps a bit with the reason why I love Demon Dog so much. Is he's also, as well as being, like I said, a very interesting character in his own right, how he links in with the story as a whole and the other characters he has impact on.
I feel like he connects so many different parts of the story together. Like he connects the story of Shade and the story of Nidhogg, and just like he ruined lore too. Like he just puts all of that together, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, he's like a glue almost. He's very much a pivotal character that again, a lot of people when they first come out, it's just this doctor that likes doing experiments, where it's actually no, without him. And yeah, I mean, obviously I throw some spoilers in. Obviously most people here have played like all the chapters so far. They know things that are going on with Nidhogg and things like that. But it's the Doctor when he's found in the laboratory by Louis in his Dreamweaver. He's actually working. When we find out then that he's actually working with Nidhogg, and he's what he is doing basically. The Demon Doc is he is the one actually working on the cure for the curse. So without him, you couldn't really have a lot of the other things going on that you do have going.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things I remember being mentioned about him in the main story. I think that's his first mention when Nidhogg needed the cure to the blood curse, and he was like, oh, this reagent number 7, are you gonna take it, Nidhogg? And Nidhogg's like, I don't think so. I'm gonna suffer like a real man, or whatever it was he said.
Yeah. That reagent number 7 is basically what he's got to help people with the suffering of the curse, basically. So yeah, and he's got that as a bit of a stopgap while he's working on a permanent cure, so to speak. So yeah, he's got there's quite a lot going on, quite a lot to him.
Do we want to go into your theories, Liz?
No, is that yeah? There's nothing else we've forgotten, is there?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. So, to my tin foil hat time, I saw someone else. Tilly, God, Tilly's just put the emotes up there. Someone else has actually asked earlier on about whether or not it was canon or lore, and I know some people have sort of taken it as canon, but it's not. It is just a theory. But I'm just going to quickly pull up the suits actually, so you guys know what I'm talking about.
Go, Liz.
Right, so there's these 2 suits here called. There's one suit with a recolour called War on Ruins, and it is obviously from the sound of it is a ruin suit. We know that the Doctor comes from Ruin. Actually, let me just quickly. So this is the normal one. The recolour, she's in like a kind of very vivid pink. Let me just quickly pop that one up there so you know what I'm talking about. There. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, there's stories that were released with it, which I've got on Instagram, and I will very, very quickly through if I because yeah, to sort of understand where the theory comes from, it sort of helps if you know what's been read and made people think, that's interesting. So this is the original one, the non-recolour. He grew up in this industry ruins with his sister only. Through his growth, he witnessed the whole process of the once prosperous island become this ruin. Thus, he made up his mind to use his own strength to revitalise this land. Today, the top engineer of Ruin Island, the saviour in people's eyes, but his sister's strange disease only went worse as the years passed. If technology could bring glory back to the island, could it save his beloved sister? Day and nights of hard work, he finally managed to store her soul in an automaton where her will becomes its core. Her eyes open slowly, the light is on, and a voice so familiar sounds, "You." And then it goes into the recolour. So that was more just a generic story. Again, there's sort of like differences there where he's obviously he's not an engineer of what we've known of him. We've only known of him as a young boy studying to be a doctor. But there's certain things that sort of rang there with me. Things about like the sisters having a strange disease. Obviously, we know that he grew up in Ruin with his sister. And he's obsessed with saving her. Absolutely obsessed with saving her. Now there's then a recolour, which is my brother is my hero. And this is all from her perspective. so this AI's perspective. My brother is my hero since my childhood. He simply can do everything. Recently, he just locked himself in the lab all day long working on something. I know I don't have too much time left. I want to spend more time with him. When I opened up eyes, I'm just going to sort of... This doesn't make sense the way it's written. When I opened up my eyes, I found I was no longer the one I was before. I don't even know if I'm alive or not, but I'm just too happy to think about it when seeing my brother smile again. One day, a group of strangers broke in. They invaded my system and implanted a virus, using me as the medium to attack wildly. I've lost control of myself. What should I do, brother? Just destroy me, or I will destroy everything else on Ruin. I know how hard it is, but you have to do it. Self-destruction system activated. Countdown. 30, 29, 28. Farewell, my dear brother. So, in and of itself, anyway, it's a sad story. It's a brother that is trying so hard to save his sister, and as a last resort, he uploads her consciousness into an AI. Someone hacks her, essentially, to use her as a way of trying to destroy and kill, and she sort of sacrifices herself, essentially. And these were actually the very first I actually got, you know. It's back around at the same sort of time. And when I got this sort of first heard about the sort of the Demon Doctor as well, things just started sort of ringing bells a little bit between the two stories. Like, we know he was working as a doctor to try and save his sister. My theory basically says, what if, obviously, being the doctor failed? He couldn't save her. She died. Now, being who he was, and as well as being a doctor, he's a very intelligent boy. Morrison was a very intelligent boy. So, and he's been raised in Ruin, where he's surrounded by the technology, he's surrounded by AI. If anyone could find a way to transfer consciousness from a living person to a AI, it could well be him. And he was struck off as a doctor. He was a child then. Well, not a child. He was like, I think he was about 17 or 18 when she died. I'm trying to remember. I know he couldn't save her. He was not a child, but he was young. He was a young boy. And he's been struck off in the medical field because of what he done. He done an experiment with her. It didn't work, and she died anyway. He got struck off for doing the experiment. Got like, what's to say he probably would have gone home with his sister's body back to Ruin. So whilst there, who's to say that like he's not then used that engineering knowledge that he would have had still from Ruin, mixed with all that doctor knowledge? I mean, he was what sort of like missed out a little bit with the story from the young Morrison is he was predestined to be the greatest doctor. They called him Scalpel. They called it Scalpel. He's destined to be the great Scalpel. Basically, when you're born in Ruin, you're kind of assigned things, so to speak. But it was his destiny to be the best doctor ever, right from birth. So, with all of that knowledge, all of that medical knowledge, all of what he knows from Ruin, he's uploaded her into the AI. Yay, I've got my sister back. I found a way to keep my sister, to have her alive, to keep her with me. She was all that mattered to him. Like when he was younger, he was so patient with her. She slacked a lot in the sort of more. She wasn't as good at him in school. She, not to say she wasn't an idiot or anything. She just wasn't very. She wasn't very sort of gifted. She's just like your normal girl. But he was undyingly patient with her, helped her with everything, and so these two had this sort of bond, that a brother and sister bond that was just pure love. So yeah, that's basically my theory. He's brought her back. She's the War and Ruin suit. someone screwed up, hacked her system, wanted to use her for bad, for ill, and she's ended up basically imploding herself to try and save her brother. However, what isn't covered so much is the fact that, from what we know of Ruin now, we've not really met anyone Ruin now that's alive. Everyone we've met in Ruin has all been some sort of AI or a memory even. So I personally think that Ruin doesn't really have anyone there anymore. It's just a city of just AI. And the more powerful the memory of that AI is, almost, the more powerful that AI is, the more memory there is of them. So I think during that War on Ruins incident, although she's tried her best not to hurt anyone by self-destructing, I kind of think that she took a lot out of Ruin, basically. And if you look carefully at the side of Demon Doc's face now, you see he's got like a sort of burn scar all down the side of his face, down his neck. He's got this sort of scar going all down his side, and to me it definitely looks like a burn rather than any other sort of scar.
I thought it was blood.
Yeah, it was that Bake thought it was blood. He just always went around with this little smear of blood down his face. It's like his neck. It goes a little bit up the side of his face, but you can see it. I don't know if anyone's got a zoom in of where I'm talking.
Let me see if I can find one.
Yeah, but he has got this sort of scar. And I think that's basically, it's my theory, that's where it's come from. War and Ruin is Demon Doc's sister. And that also could explain why he's kind of obsessed with finding a cure for the curse. Because even though it was unintentional on her side, if he brings her back and she has caused harm, will that curse be able to differentiate? So could he bring her back just to have her suffering? And he's not going to want that for his sister. And the other thing as well was, like, it's like that he's brilliant. He's a brilliant man. Now he's like this accomplished doctor. He obviously knows all these. If what I say about Warren Williams is true, he's obviously very intelligent, like along the lines of engineering skills. Kind of like masters anything he really set his mind to. Now, despite that, how would he be able to have supernatural abilities? How could he deal in science? He couldn't, realistically. You know, and that's something altogether different. That's a supernatural. He's not a supernatural being. And so for me, the only answer really has to be that at some point he himself has made a deal with a supernatural being himself, whether it's to keep his sister in status, to sort of, and basically the supernatural beings like, okay, we won't take her soul, but you've got to collect more souls for us. And that's pretty much all my theories.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
I mean, I think there's so much validity to those. I mean, for all the reasons that you pointed out. But, like, yeah, we did see him as a kid. You know, he was just a student at one point, even if he was destined to be a great doctor. So I think that he made a deal himself is like super. Yeah. There seems to be a lot of truth there.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I just think. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, it probably ties in with the NPC we meet in Shiny Mickey, their sequel game. but I can't talk about that. So,
Yeah, we'll leave Shining Nikki alone. But I have heard there is a possibility that there is a character that is met in Shining Nikki that could possibly be the character that he does the deal with, or that people theorize that he might have done a deal with someone from there. But for me, with Shining Nikki, I mean, that's going to obviously be at some point a separate radio podcast. But for me, it's a difference between spoiling the end of a book and starting on a whole new one, if that makes sense. It's tricky. It's tricky with Shining Nikki. But there are certain aspects of it. Obviously, we do know a lot now about the lore of what we're doing from the Shining Nikki.
Yeah, Shining Nikki's in the past, like 700 years in the past.
Yeah, it's long ago, and obviously, like I said, it is what I've said. It's not canon. It's just a theory that makes sense to me. As I'm not being if there's a way that I can gain some sort of, I'm not me personally. Regardless of anyone, no matter how intelligent you are, you don't just gain supernatural abilities. You know, it's you can't just gain it. I think we'd have heard something by now.
I wish.
But I've actually popped this in here as well. This is basically like just a thing I wrote up, and that is combining. It is a fanfic, but it's not a I'm trying to think how to say it.
Not like a romance one, right? I mean,
yes. Yeah, it's just pure lore, but it's pure lore mixed with my theories, and that's there.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely recommend giving it a read so you can understand how all of this could fit together. You know, it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's canon.
Yeah, it's not canon. It's not canon. There's canon stuff in there, but it's jumbled with what I think could be possible. Well, someone asked me to have it made canon. That'd be awesome if I could, but I don't think it's gonna work. Yeah,
okay, yeah. Is that all we have to talk about, or
that's all we have for Demon Doc, I think. And I think I know we did say if we were talking about earlier what we'd do if we want.
Yeah, we were just gonna answer a few.
We're gonna go through. Yeah, we've had like some sort of common questions that have come up, and if I read some of them out, basically. And
yeah,
wait.
Oh,
wait. Oh,
there's
we got
like
something. This
tiny little lore bit about the demon doctors that I kind of want to share with you guys because I think it's hilarious.
Yes, please share.
So apparently, when he was making a contract with the demon to get his, demon doctor abilities, he messed up on the contract, and that's how his hair went from being blonde to being gray. He just messed it up.
It could be. The price he had to pay was the loss of his hair colour. Well, actually, a little bit on that as well. Like, if you think of like what his personality is like now, I think he's got a little bit of who he was left, because we know from like him as a small, like as a younger lad, he had. Obviously, he's a very, very sort of human character, and he is almost inhuman now. And I think that's kind of semi part of his sort of obsession. Like, he doesn't care about anything else, really, but getting his sister back. Anything else in between that happens, like, oh, can I turn you into a living skeleton? Oh, can I do this? Oh, can I do that? Oh, can I experiment on an elf, please? I want to cut an elf open. I've not done that before. It's like just a pure, almost like a child's kind of simplistic you, of just, I want this to happen, I want that to happen, I'm just going to do this. I think it's just to keep, it's just, no, not so much that he never grew up mentally, it's just done for his own amusement. Do you know what I mean? There's no compassion there to him. There's nothing really there to him that is human anymore, so to speak. And I think partly that could have been his obsession that's done it, but I think that could well be like a bit of a side effect from the deal that he made as well. Basically. But yeah, and actually, this is one of the sort of the first question that we sort of got. It kind of ties in
Oh
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, and it's got why are styling battles used instead of regular battles in Myraland is one of the questions that come up a lot. And it's, yeah, I mean, again, it's tricky because it goes into Sunshine and Nikki, but not massively. So I think we can slightly cross.
Yeah, I feel like they address it enough in the main game for us to talk about it.
Yeah, so basically, it's he was there used to be a one tube. I might have this a bit wrong. There used to be the reason why they do it in the most simple version is that because of the curse, basically, if you do real battle, if you stab someone, you're gonna suffer immense pain. You're gonna basically just crumble into nothing eventually. It's you're gonna experience excruciating agony. And yeah, and that's why you kind of have these two big factions, really, of people that want to get rid of the curse and people that don't. So, like, yeah, it kind of explains a little bit about some of the motivation. Oh, here we go. I've got a semi thing written. So, sometime far in the past, a curse was placed upon Myraland by its true ruler after they were killed by those they had helped. Those born in Myraland and those of Myraland blood can no longer inflict harm upon others without having crippling pain inflicted upon themselves. It was decided then that all conflicts would be resolved using styling battles, and Myraland had become a place where designers and stylists flourished, and design's the most important commodity. All is still not right in Myraland, however. The rich can afford assassinations, and there is still conflict. ... So yeah, that's why. So don't say anything, Bake.
Yeah, I just don't have anything else to say to that other than yep, that's the truth.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's good cases for either side. If you want the styling battles to be how stuff is decided, or if you want to get rid of the blood curse, it's interesting. There's pros and cons.
Yeah, and I mean, like, really, it's actually, it's one of them, like, just talking about, sure, got just like about 10 minutes left, about just the curse in general a little bit.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Your feelings are on it. Because for me, it's like, I understand why people would want to get rid of it. I really, really do understand why people want to get rid of it. Because obviously it's led to a system that is very unfair. You find out throughout the game there's a hell of a lot of corruption. if someone wants to get rid of someone, I mean, if you look at the I call her the heli girl suit, the girl in front of the helicopter. She's actually like a paid for assassin because she saw someone kill her dad, I think, when she was younger, or one of her parents when she was younger. So Feast of Hunt, that's the one. So there she is. So if you're rich enough, you can just afford to pay someone who doesn't care about the blood curse, or they might already be under the blood curse for other reasons. You can just pay someone to go and kill someone for you and not have to worry about any implications of the blood curse on yourself. So that's inevitably gonna lead to corruption if you can do things without having any consequence upon yourself.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's totally how I
fine.
feel about it too. Like, it feels like killing and fighting are going to be inevitable, even in this universe where people are obviously heavily penalized for physically harming people. It's just going to happen. Like, there's wars still, even sometimes they're styling wars, but sometimes they're real ones, and people are just suffering even more for this because of the blood curse. So I understand. I get why some people, or most people, don't want it to disappear. But it's sad when things do need to be resolved, that it's even more painful for everyone.
Yeah, completely. So yeah, it is one of them things. Bake. Oh, there you go. I was gonna say, do you have anything more, like, because I just feel like I've just been rambling, and I want to make sure I get enough to sort of get our words in.
Yeah, I gotta agree with what you guys said, and I also think it kind of like creates a system where you can't defend yourself against like you can't use it self-defense, because then you'll be affected with the blood curse, and that's just kind of like very, very unfair.
It is. It's just a bit of a sucky system, really. In my opinion. I mean, obviously, it's there for a reason. But the reason why it was brought in was just, obviously, it was when you first sort of thought that it was just then, when you didn't really know the reasons. For me, when I first didn't really know the reasons why the curse had been placed, and I thought it could have been something that people would agree to together. It might have been like the elves placing it because they were sick of the humans fighting all the time and coming into our forests and for their wood for their bows and arrows or whatever. I could kind of like maybe understand why it was brought in a little bit more. But then when I kind of found out that really it was just, and okay, I understand the true ruler being a bit upset for being killed by those they had helped. I do understand that. But when you find out it's just this one guy that's actually placed a curse in Myraland, it's kind of like a little bit, for me, it kind of means, in a way, it's been brought in as revenge. Basically, the purpose of the curse seems to be more vengeful to me now, which make it even worse.
Yeah, one of the things that does stand out to me about the styling battles, and this is less about the history behind it and more about like how it's viewed, even the people who seem to want the blood curse to go away, they still put a lot of thought, and they still care about the styling battles. Like, Nidhogg still agreed to battle Nikki in a styling battle. Even he was still willing to do that, which I mean, basically, that whole scene where he's like, "Oh, the styling battles are stupid" or whatever, and Boba was like, "Well, obviously they're not that stupid because don't you remember what it was like to be a designer, and you obviously care about designing clothes, you care about all of this, and he still was willing to oblige Nikki for the styling battle." And then in chapter 19, I don't know if you guys remember this, but this scene where Nikki sees all those North soldiers and she's like, "Oh, let me get by. Let's do a styling battle." And they're like, "Haha, styling battles are for babies," or whatever. I'm paraphrasing because, and she's like, "Oh, you guys won't do a styling battle?" And they're like, okay, we'll do a styling battle because it's more honor, it's more dignified, I guess, than just killing someone or whatever. So, and she's like, "Haha, those guys are cowards. They're not gonna, you know how it is. Like, it's interesting to me how people will say one thing and mean another."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fake, you're lit up, but I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm not saying anything. I think my headphones are picking up random noises.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was Bobo's Dreamweaver too. I remember that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I don't know. Have both of you or either of you played Shining Nikki?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, if either of you played Shining Nikki, I just want to check
Yeah.
that I'm not.
I've played Shining Nikki.
I just want to check that I've not misinterpreted my feelings on the reason for the styling battles being brought in. I haven't misinterpreted it. Basically, was it? Did it seem vengeful or not?
I haven't been following the lore that much.
Oh, okay.
It's just been a lot. Like, it's so much information. I'm like, all right, slow down. I'm still working on the first game.
The Blood Curse isn't really covered in Shining Nikki. Like, no one really explains why they even style battle. It just kind of like there. Okay, my mom.
Oh, I think Bakes had to go. I think we're at the hour now anyway. So any closing things, Sadie?
That's about all I have to say about either the Blood Curse or the Demon Doctor. But really, there is a lot of interesting information. Actually, can I post a link to the translation because of that story?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that was in there that I didn't even get to cover because it's just a long story. Let me find that real quick.
Yeah, and it is a very long story. I mean, I actually referred to that when writing my little mashup, and it is very long, but it is good, and it is sort of like I said, it's interesting to see. Like, that is the true lore, basically, of young little Morrison, bless him. But yeah, I mean, closing wise, obviously, it's just I just really find it fascinating. I find all the lore really fascinating, and I wanted to say as well, like, a big, massive thank you to everyone for being here as well, and for people for hosting us as well. And also, don't forget, like, we've got the lore server as well. If anyone's got any questions that they want us to sort of address, if we do get that sort of 10-15 minutes at the end of a session in the future, do pop it in there.
Thank you guys so much. It was another great show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you everyone who was here listening, and thank you guys for being here again. We're so happy to have you guys. Like, these Saturdays are great already, so we've got lots more to come for everyone.
For sure. Thank you guys again for having us, and thank you to everyone who came. You guys are the best.
Thank you guys for being such a good audience, and thank you, Selena, for hosting.
Yes,
Thank you guys.
Today's show was made possible by the entire Maryland Radio production team. We hope that you had as much fun listening in today as we did making this show. Until next time, this was Maryland Radio. Myraland, Merland, Miraland. Ugh.